This is Ana Rojas.
Hi guys, this is Illustrator.
And can you just give us some sign that you can hear as well? We just want to make sure that the microphone is working okay. So maybe just put some pluses or...
Okay,
great.
Thank you so much. So Julie, I can hear you. Okay, sounds good. So I actually stopped broadcast just because it was echoing out big time. So as soon as we're done with the introduction, I'll turn video and audio back for you, so you can move on with the presentation. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining today. Today we have a very special guest, Julie Mendez. Julie is a career coach and certified job search specialist with JSM Career Coaching. And the focus of today's presentation will be to show us how to create a focus plan to manage your job search. Again, just want to remind everybody that this is just one of those many webinars that we plan in the upcoming month. So just keep an eye on our upcoming events. All right, Julie, if you're ready, I'm going to go ahead and turn the audio and video back on, and we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, can everyone hear me fine? Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to be covering creating a job search strategy. And I tend to talk a lot, so I'm going to talk a little fast. Please let me know if you can understand me, and I'll repeat it. So if you can go ahead and switch the slides, there you go. Again, this is just and you can find me in a lot of various places through my website at jsmcareercoaching.com. You can also find me via email. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, and I welcome all interaction. Please feel free to email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. You're welcome. Okay, next slide. Okay, we're going to get right into our topic today. We're going to talk about what a job search is. So, if you could define a job search, and you're doing a little worksheet like with a kids program, this is kind of what I would see. So when you think about a job search, oftentimes I'll have people tell me, well, how you look for a job. It's a marketing plan. It's a lot of things. And yes, those are all true, but that's not necessarily how we're thinking about it today. So Anna, next. So when you really think about a job search, I want you to think that a job search is a marketing campaign. Because what are you doing? You're marketing a product. Unfortunately, you just happen to be the product at the same time. So an effective job search involves developing an integrated marketing campaign that includes multiple marketing channels executed simultaneously. Now, if a company had developed a multimedia marketing campaign for one of their products, they wouldn't just put ads out in one type of place. You wouldn't just do radio ads. You would have radio ads, magazine ads, websites, word of mouth, promotional events. It would be TV and radio, and so on and so on. And so this is how you really have to think about your job search, because you can't just do one thing and have a really good, effective job search. You're going to have a multi-pronged approach. Now, without a strategy, passive job seekers tend to use the trial and error approach, or the, oftentimes it's the, waiting by the phone and just hoping somebody calls, or the spray and pray approach, just, trying anything to see what works. When they do this, there is absolutely no ability to track what is actually working for you, or what's most useful. And there's really no concrete plan for a job seeker to hold on to. I know how stressful job search can be. It can feel like absolutely nothing is in your control. However, there is quite a bit that's in your control, and your marketing campaign or your job search strategy is one of them. So passive job seekers tend to take the path of least resistance. which basically means which one are they going to hit the least, which one's the easiest to kind of just get away with. And that typically means they just apply to positions online, and that's it. Most job seekers that I speak to, that's what they have done. They have basically they're just applying online. And when it does work, when they do get a job from applying online, it usually takes a very long time. And they often find themselves in a position where, frankly, they're not really happy with it. They feel like they have to settle because this was just the best that was out there. This is all they could get. There was nothing else available. So they had to take what they could find. And as a career coach, that's really not my favorite, situation to be in. I want all of my clients, excuse me, to feel like they've gotten the best possible lead they could find. I want them to feel happy with their roles and so on. Now, on the flip side, a proactive job seeker is going to be someone who uses that multi-channeled marketing approach, and they're going to find more opportunities, and they're more likely to find an ideal job much, much faster. So if you can flip to the next slide. So let's talk about creating a strategy and which multi-marketing tactics we want to use. So there are many, many job search tactics that people use in their job search marketing campaigns. Everything from face-to-face or in-person networking, direct mail campaigns, just mailing your stuff to a company and hoping they read it, responding to classified ads in print, so trade journal magazines, newspapers, and so on. Also applying to ads online, specific job board websites, like I know for IT positions, Dice is very popular, and so on. Also direct mail to recruiters, so basically kind of just spamming a bunch of emails out, resumes out to recruiters. Job fair, going through a company website, creating a web portfolio to help yourself be found, job boards, networking online, social networking, social websites, blogging, virtual job fairs, creating job search alerts that announce to you when they find a job lead, and so on. So there's tons of things you can do. So the idea, and if we use a little bit of sales terminology for a moment, want to look at marketing campaigns are going to help you close that deal faster. So of course, you could spend a lot of billable hours in a job search. As you can see, there are a lot of things you can do. But when I've been in positions where I've had to kind of bill hours to certain clients, I have to track that very well. And usually when you're doing billable hour type work, or contract work or consulting work, there are certain things that you have to do just to stay in business. And then there are certain things that you can bill time for. So when I file my paperwork and I'm cleaning up, my to-do pile over here, yes, it needs to be done, but I don't necessarily get paid for that. I have to do my books and pay my bills and, do invoices for clients. And yes, all of that absolutely has to be done, but those are non-billable hours. I don't get paid for that. So in a job search, how can we think of that strategy? Well, the things where you can kind of bill for that or get billable hours, those are activities that are going to get you to the job search faster. And this is really all about getting the most bang for your buck when time is money. We want to make sure you are getting the most out of that time that you can humanly possible get it. So we're all, really this is all about return on investment and time. So let's talk about which tactics are most effective for you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So this is a great study that I finally found a picture of. Basically, there was this study out basically of how job seekers tend to find jobs. And it's just one of many. The numbers really almost end up being very much the same in every single study. So statistically, only around 10% of people get their jobs by applying online. I've seen it everywhere from 7 to 12%. But right about 10% of people are going to get their job by applying online, which is crazy because about 95% of job seekers, that's all they do is get job online. So if you have, 90% of job seekers going after something that we know statistically is only going to give you a 10% return on investment, that's not such great odds. Plus, that's a lot of competition going after a limited amount of roles. Now, what are some of the other ways that people get jobs online? Through recruiters. Now, I happen to love recruiters. Used to be one. I think recruiters are great. They are a fabulous resource as part of your job search. But you have to remember that recruiters don't work for you. They work for the company that's paying them. You are the product that they're trying to sell to that company. So yes, getting you in that role does help them because that's how they pay their bills. Most external recruiters, not internal recruiters in the company, but external recruiters, they're all working on 100% commission. So it is very important to them that they do a good job and they fill that role with someone the company is going to be happy with. Now, if a recruiter submits 3 people and you happen to be one of them, and the company chooses someone else, they still get paid even though you weren't selected. So again, recruiters are a fabulous resource, but they don't do your job search for you, and they definitely don't work for you. So think of them as a partner, an ally. Oftentimes, because honestly, they live and die by how good their network is and how many jobs they can get to try to fill. Frankly, their networks are going to be really fantastic compared to yours, most likely, because that's what they do for a living. And they are probably going to have inroads into places that, frankly, you would not be able to replicate on your own. So they can be a very valuable resource, but they don't do the whole job for you. And again, statistically, only around about 10% of people get their jobs through recruiter. Again, even though they're, used to be one, I love recruiters. Still, statistically, recruiters only fill about 10% of the job. Now, I will tell you, when I first heard that statistic, I just thought it had to be wrong, because I knew as a recruiter, if I could get my hands on anything and try to fill it, because, hey, I made bonuses that way and I made commission that way. However, recruiters probably don't get access to more than about 10% of the jobs out there, because remember, the companies have to pay them a commission. They have to pay them a finder's fee. So when you think about it, the number is probably accurate. How else do people find jobs out there? Well, another way they find jobs is through job fairs. Now, statistically, only 3 to 5%, and yes, that is a 3. Let me do this over here. 3 to 5% get jobs through going to a job fair, and that's it. Now, the number might skew up if it's a specialty job fair. So I know you guys are all in the business analyst phase here. So if it was a specialty job fair just for your industry or just for your job, yes, that number might skew a little bit. But also, the higher you get up in your career, that number tends to skew down regardless. So again, statistically, only 3 to 5% of people are getting their jobs through a job fair. Now, the big blue number that you see there, networking, 60 to 80% of people, depending on which study you're looking at, are getting their jobs through networking and internal referrals. So what is that? Well, I define networking as you schmoozing your way in there and you getting yourself an interview. An internal referral is when you have a friend that works at the company and they pass along your resume and that gives you an interview. Either way is fantastic. And you'll see this study actually doesn't delineate between those two. But again, 60 to 80% of people, depending on how you define it, get their jobs through networking or internal referrals. Now, when you think of those stats, if everyone says job search is a full-time job, and a full-time job is 40 hours a week. If I spend 100% of my time in that 40 hours a week doing something that we know that's only going to get a 10% return on investment, like applying online, that might not be the most effective way to use your time in a job search. Now, if we know that something else like networking statistically gets us a 60 to 80% return on investment of our time, that is probably the most productive and effective use of our time in a job search. So again, when this is why I really want to point all of these stats out and why I love these stats, because it's not me saying it. It's not, just any random person saying it. This is played out in study after study after study, that networking is by far the absolute best use of your time in a job search. Not to say you can't do all of the other things, but networking should be your first priority and really kind of get first dibs on your time. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this slide is just for you guys. Make some notes for yourself. How are you, if you're currently in a job search, whether that's, you're unemployed and you're looking, or you're in a job and you're considering moving to a new job, make some notes for yourself. How have you currently been spending your time, all of your job search time up until now? And I think it's a really good exercise if you start tracking this as you move forward. So, start kind of honestly clocking yourself and clocking hours to make sure that you are getting, you can really see where you're spending your job search time. And I frankly, when I do this little exercise with my clients, their eyes, they're just blown away because they thought they were a lot more effective than they were, and then they start writing the list of everything they're doing, and they realize they're doing a lot of busy work, things that are important, but again, aren't those billable hours. So what will we consider billable hours? It would be, actually, I think you can go ahead to the next slide now. I'm going to write myself a note on the slides. Okay, so billable hours, again, are the things that we know are going to get us to a job faster. So yes, it is very important to have a really great LinkedIn profile, but working on your LinkedIn profile is kind of your non-billable hours, the things you have to do in order to do your job search. That goes for having your resume. You absolutely need a fabulous resume, but sitting there and rewriting your resume 18 times to apply to 7 jobs, not the most effective your time. So as an exercise, you might want to just start tracking how you're spending your time so you actually know. And most people don't think of that in a very conscious manner. So they think they're a lot more effective and productive than they actually are. So we need to keep this big picture of your job search process in mind as we go through this so that you don't get stuck down in the details. We don't want to do the job search equivalent of kind of just moving paper around your desk, moving from one pile to another. That doesn't really get us good work. We want to be out there. And in sales terminology, it's going out there and doing those cold calls and going out there and doing those meetings, sourcing people constantly. So we're going to apply those same concepts here to our job search. So since networking is our #1 go-to for our job search, if we can go to the next slide, let's talk about creating that strategy plan for you. We know statistically 60 to 80% of people are going to get their jobs through networking. So what kinds of things would include networking? Well, that could be going to alumni association meetings. So if you have, any place you've ever been to school or university, if they have an alumni group, make sure you're getting involved and you're hanging out with those people. You're getting to know them either in person, over the internet, either one works. But for today's purpose, we're focusing on getting out of your house and doing that sort of networking. I find that people are okay with doing networking online, going on LinkedIn, but again, that's not all of networking. LinkedIn and social media is a tool to help you get out of your house and then go network. It helps you find people to meet so you can go meet them in person. So the different kinds of groups that you might want to look for in your area: alumni association group meetings, any sort of minority groups or minority associations. My husband is Hispanic, I can go join all the Hispanic business groups, for example. I'm female. I join a lot of women in business or professional women's associations. I'm going to conferences. That's a great way to meet people who are very active in your industry. And oftentimes, I'll say the vast majority of the time, the people that are going to conferences are actively employed right now, which means they are in a position where they can help you right now. Now, there's a networking theory called if you've ever heard the 6 degrees of separation, they've actually applied this to your job search. And there's it's actually, LinkedIn has actually narrowed this down to 3 degrees of separation just with the advent of social media. Also, there's a networking theory called the weak ties theory, the WEAK, weak ties theory. And that theory says that it's not going to be with those people which you have very close ties, or like your inner network of family and friends, the people you're closest to, that are most likely going to help you find your job. It could be with those people that you have weak ties versus strong ties. Those are people that you haven't seen in days, weeks, months, perhaps even years. And even more specifically, in the past year or so, they've even refined this even more. And because of the advent of social media, they can now tell you it's not just people that you haven't seen in a while. It's going to be your old colleagues, people that you worked with in that job that you had 5 or 10 years ago. That is most likely going to be where your next job comes from. And so networking and reaching out to those people that you used to know, it's a really great tool. Of course, industry associations, industry groups, trade shows, exhibit halls. I go up and down exhibit halls when I go to conferences all the time, and I'm meeting all vendors. Why? Because the vendors, frankly, they're selling to everyone. They know everyone. It's a great place to meet people who know a lot of people. You might also want to think about your local area networking groups. So for me, it would be like DC-based networking groups. And it's going to be, it could be the generic, hey, just DC networking group, or it could be very, very specific, like business analyst in DC. So it could be either or. So these generic local networking groups are great because you're going to meet a lot of people who are not in your same field, but they're going to be working in a lot of companies in your area. So if you're not looking to move to a new city, it's a great way to learn about what companies are in the mood to hire, what companies are actively involved. And anyone can be a referral inside of a company. It could be the person in the accounting department. That's fine. It doesn't matter where the internal referral comes from. Another website that I do look for a lot of networking events, I put it on here. One of them is meetup.com. As you guys know, you registered through Meetup here to come to this webinar. Eventbrite is another one that's very popular in my area. And oftentimes I'll scour these sites to look for groups, to look for events to attend. Of course, if you belong to any associations, get involved in their website. Check their upcoming events. I would go ahead and RSVP for all of them. Make sure you attend. Also check out, oftentimes if you're a member of an association, you get access to the directory of everyone else that belongs to that association. So you get that Rolodex of who everyone is and where they're working. It's a great way to find people. Now, of course, career fairs or job fairs, in-person job fairs, virtual job fairs too. But remember that, that I always consider that a networking event because only 3 to 5% of people get jobs that way. I'll never tell you not to go, but I will say don't actually expect to get a job there. Think of it more as a networking opportunity where you're going to find people who are in the same, who are trying to hire positions. And, when else do you find a hiring manager or a recruiter who's stuck behind a table for 3 hours and can't move? So it can be a great way to reach out and kind of put a name with a face, get their business card and their contact information so you can follow up later. But don't actually assume that you're recruiters. Again, I love recruiters. Great people to know, great allies to have in your job search. LinkedIn, of course. I'm a huge, big LinkedIn nut. Now, I want to make a specific caveat about job seeker specific groups. So there are a lot of job seeker support groups out there. These are the groups that you're going to go to, and they'll have a speaker every week, and they'll talk to you about your job search and try to help you with your job search. The vast majority of people in that room, they're all unemployed and they're job seekers like you. Or they're in a position at a company, but they're not real happy there and they're looking to move. Most of those people, the vast majority of employed, they'd love to help you. They'd probably be a great resource, but they're not in a position to help you today. Now, maybe 6 months from now, they will be, but not today. And so as much as I love job seeker groups, and I speak at them all the time, I don't consider them a networking event. I consider them actually more of a support group, so that, and those are always great to have too, of course. You know, having support, knowing that you're not alone in this, learning from others, getting to talk to people who are going through this in person, that there's really not enough that can be said for that kind of environment. But I just don't let my clients call it a networking event. Can we go to the next slide? So if you can slide back one, please. That one a little bit further. Okay, so that we've talked about the events, okay, we want to think about how you're going to spend your time in the future. Now, first of all, when we're thinking about networking, we know that 70% of people are going to get, 60 to 80% of people are going to get their jobs through networking and internal referrals. So if I'm looking in my calendar and I've blocked off 40 hours this week to do my job search, then really 70% of those 40 hours should be going to as much networking as I can humanly possibly do. So our number one goal is to spend 60 to 70 to 80% of our time at networking events, trying to network no matter what it might be. So maybe that is going to your alumni association and minorities and so on. Maybe that's a one-on-one meeting with a really valued networking partner, someone who knows a lot, who can give some tips and advice. I know, frankly, my network absolutely loves Starbucks coffee and will do just about anything for a $5 cup of Starbucks. So I often will invite somebody, hey, let's meet for coffee. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. I'd love to pick your brain on this issue. Or I'd love to ask for your advice. So again, it can be a one-on-one, it can be a large group meeting, it can be a variety of the two. It can be online networking, but remember, your goal is just to meet people online that you can then move to an in-person conversation. You want to start to develop relationships. People will do a favor for a friend, even an acquaintance level-based friend, far more quickly than they will do a favor for a complete stranger. So because you know you're about to have to ask for a favor, do some time to really build up that relationship so they don't feel like they're being taken advantage of. Now remember, the other things that you might want to spend your time. And so, you know, when I'm looking at my calendar, the very first thing I do every week is I block off all my networking events. I just go ahead and RSVP, block that time off my calendar. That gets first dibs of my time. And if I don't have that many networking events this week, I will often go to my list of people I'd love to meet with and ask them out for lunch or a cup of coffee or a drink after work, whatever works for you. And again, I'm going to try to fill it as much as I can with that networking. Now, everything else you do in your job search is going to fit in the nooks and crannies around that. So if you need to practice your interviewing, if you need to work on your LinkedIn profile, do research on a company, apply to jobs online, whatever it might be, that fits in your calendar all around the networking. So applying online, again, I will never tell you not to apply to a job online, but I am going to say let's not leave it there. So if you are applying to a job at ABC company, great, go ahead and get your application in, because that's often the first thing they ask you. But then the next step is to do what I call double dipping. Who do you know at that company? Who could introduce you to someone at that company? Start working your network to make sure you find another way in. Go through the back door, not just the front door. Find a way that's going to get you past HR and get you to the decision makers. Okay, so I think next slide. Perfect. So we've talked a lot about job search strategy and really sitting down and making a conscious, organized choice to do job search strategy is really going to help you out a lot. And I wanted to offer my services as a career coach to help you with this process. So I put my LinkedIn URL here. You can also find me through my website. The various services I provide include LinkedIn consultations and training, job search coaching, like we're talking about today, which could cover job search strategy or a variety of topics, resume coaching, coaching you through the process of creating a really strong resume, interview coaching, making sure you're prepped, really nail those interviews. Because if you're doing all of this networking, you're applying to all of these jobs, then of course, I want to make sure you're nailing the interview and so you actually get the job. And next slide. Now, for those of you that are on the call today, I put some special deals together. I don't typically offer sales or deals, but I just wanted to share this with you. For anyone who would like some career coaching on any variety of topics, basically, if you purchase 4 coaching sessions, you get 1 free. Also, I have a LinkedIn package deal, which includes 4 recorded webinars, parts 1 through 4, that walk you through the entire LinkedIn process, literally from how to set up your LinkedIn profile through the end, interspersed with 4 different coaching sessions. So you do the webinar, have a coaching session, webinar, coaching session, and so on. So you, again, there's 2 packages there specifically for you guys. You can also sign up for my newsletter for free, and you'll receive an article that talks about the magic bullet for your job search. You can get that free as well. And so the link there is on your screen. Unfortunately, I couldn't clean that up or make it any neater, so we would just have to copy that down. And next slide. Oh, this is available for this week only. Sorry, I do need to put that in there. So definitely please feel free to reach out to me via email, LinkedIn, through my website, and so on. Let me know that you were on this webinar, and then I can give you those deals. And I believe we have some time left. If you guys want to open that up for questions, you can type them right in the chat box, and I'll do my best to answer them. I see some people typing. So go ahead and just type in your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Anna asked, do you recommend to send out follow-up letters? I absolutely recommend following up. Whether that's a letter or a mail, phone call, that's there. But following up is the key. Most people don't. And most people just assume, okay, well, they'll reach out to me, but then they never do, and then you get frustrated because they didn't reach out to you. And meanwhile, frankly, that email has gotten buried so far down into their inbox that they never even saw it. Well, that does you no good. So I always tell people, basically take the responsibility of follow completely on your own for yourself, that you are doing the follow-up, whether that be email or phone calls or reaching out on LinkedIn or whatever it might be. However you go about doing it, I would absolutely follow up. Okay, I see a lot of typing going on, so I will just see what we can get some other questions here. What is the best way to keep in touch with people you meet at networking events? What a great question. Well, I will tell you, I'm a big fan of business cards. Okay, my business cards, I literally spent $20 on. You can go to Staples, print some, make some up for $20. You can get free ones too. It's really not expensive. Basically, you want to make sure you have your contact information, your LinkedIn URL, your email address, and so on. Because frankly, it's so much more comfortable to just walk around and hand out a business card than it is to walk around with 20 copies of your resume. So, and if I hand you my business card, then you kind of feel obligated to give me yours back. So now you have their contact info. So I love business cards. Go to networking events. You want to try to get contact information, people. I would follow up in 24 hours. It was so great to see you at yesterday's event. Here's my LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And oh, we had a conversation about this article and I wanted to share it with you, whatever. So again, if I, let's say I went to a happy hour last night, my first thing this morning would be that I would kind of come with my stack of business cards and sit here with my coffee, and I would send out those letters first thing and try to reach out to as many people as I can. I would also connect with every single person you ever meet professionally through LinkedIn. That way, if they move or they change email addresses, you never lose them because now you're connected on LinkedIn. So definitely LinkedIn, definitely an email if you have it. You know, if they tell you to call them, follow directions. I had a contact a few weeks ago at a networking event, and he flat out told me, you know what, I never read my emails. I'm never at my phone. So if you want to chat with me, message me LinkedIn because they can actually respond to. I was like, oh, okay. So now I know this in contact. That's the way I reach out to him. Oh, another question has come in. Katya has asked, what is the optimal number of pages for a resume? Now, U.S. standards for resumes are 1 to 2 pages max and no more. I know that is not the same in other countries. And so, but however, here in the U.S., resume standards are 1 to 2 pages for a resume. Katya says, if I receive 10 to 15 emails with job opportunities every day, should I reply to all of them if I'm not in an active job search? Well, I don't know why you need to be receiving all 15 emails a day with job leads if you're not interested in the job leads. You can always just cancel those emails. I would only respond to the ones you were actually interested in. So if people are, you know, kind of reaching out to you and telling you, hey, I have this job opportunity, I have this job opportunity. If you want to talk to them, great. If you don't, you can just politely let them know I'm not looking right now. I'm happy where I'm at. And that's okay. So now I personally, and this is me personally, not as a career coach, I have a rule that I'm open to speaking to everyone. I'll talk to anyone. Talking does not imply commitment. So I'm happy to speak to someone, and I'm also happy to tell them, hey, based on what you're telling me, this is not the right role for me. I know, I see what you're asking for, but that is not what I'm looking for. But I appreciate you thinking of me. Feel free to chat me again if things change. So again, it's really up to you what you do. I would say polite and, of course, professional in all correspondence. If you're getting kind of mad emails from websites, you know, giving you those generated list of email of job leads, I would just cancel out of them if you don't want them, or just delete them if you prefer to do that. If you're getting individualized messages, maybe you're friends with recruiters and they keep trying to hire you, then you might want to just let them, you know what, I'm really happy where I'm at right now. If I know of anybody looking, I will send them over to you. Great. Any other questions coming in? Oh, you're very welcome, Katya. All right, I think we've gotten through the list. I'm not sure if you have anything else. Oh, John has one here. What are your recommendations for a senior professional? How would you fit experience on a 2-page resume? Well, again, remember, a resume is not a laundry list of everything you've ever done in your life. It is a marketing tool. It's like the trifold brochure or that big glossy brochure that, you know, that you're going to get when you go buy a car. It's not the owner's manual. So you need to focus on related accomplishments and related experiences that are going to help you get your next job. And I will say that I have found it extremely easy to get things down to 2 pages, even for a senior professional. Now remember, resume standards are also that we only cover the 10 to 15 most recent years of experience. Because let's face it, whatever you were doing in the year 2000, most likely, no matter what job you were doing, is not going to be the same way today from a technological standpoint alone. So accomplishment 1999 and 2000 really aren't going to apply and really aren't going to sell you for your job that you're going after in 2018 or 2019. So resumes cover the 10 to 15 most recent years of experience and should only be 1 to 2 pages. You're welcome. Okay, so I don't see any other questions in. Are there any other questions coming in? All right, this has been fun, guys. So Anna, if you have anything else that you need to cover here, I think I've gotten everything in my talk covered today.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's really great information. And well, I apologize, but I did cut you off just because if I would start speaking at the same time, it would still be echoing out and nobody could hear me. So again, well, thank you so much. It's really great. I keep on listening to different career webinars and attending different events, but the information I heard from you today is definitely unique and something that actually, a lot of it I haven't really heard from other speakers. So it's definitely unique. And, guys, take a look at what Julie has to offer in her consultations and career coaching. Maybe this is something that she can help you out in, in the next upcoming, in a few months. So again, well, thank you so much, everybody, for your participation. The recordings of the webinar will be available on the Meetup group if you are interested to go back and watch it again. And we're looking forward to seeing you at our next events. Thank you. Have a good night.